I am stepping in as a pinch hitter tonight. I was supposed to be next Wednesday, but Nick came up with a stomach virus last night, so he asked me to do, so we're switching out. If you hadn't heard, there's no class Sunday for any of the adult classes, so we'll be back next Wednesday. I'm sorry for Nick's ailment, but part of me was secretly glad that I wanted to teach this, and I had not assigned it to myself, so I thought, well, Nick's got it, I'm gonna let him go with it, but I don't know, maybe, this is a roundabout action here that we're gonna talk about Psalm 39, and mainly Psalm 88, and I thought tonight, let's read through Psalm 39 first. I'm not gonna say a whole lot about it, make a couple of remarks. So this is, tonight I'm going to be using, again, I've used it a couple times, the New Living Translation, which I think puts some of the phrases here a little bit more in our idiom. But if you want to follow along with your favorite version, that's fine too. Grant, would you be willing to read for us here?
Sure. I said to myself, I will watch what I do and not sin in what I say. I will hold my tongue when the ungodly are around me. But as I stood there in silence, not even speaking of good things, the turmoil within me grew worse. The more I thought about it, the hotter I got, igniting a fire of words. Lord, remind me how brief my time on earth will be. Remind me that my days are numbered, how fleeting my life is. You have made my life no longer than the width of my hand. My entire lifetime is just a moment to you. At best, each of us is but a breath.
Chuck, would you mind picking up there?
There's going to be a different version.
All right.
Surely a man goes about as a shadow. Surely for nothing they are in turmoil. Man heaps up wealth and does not know who will gather. And now, O Lord, for what do I wait? My hope is in you. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the scorn of the fool. I am mute. I do not open my mouth, for it is you who have done it. Remove your stroke from me. I am bent by the hostility of your hand. When you discipline a man with rebukes for sin, you consume me like a moth that is dear to him. Surely all mankind is a mere breath. Hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear to my cry. Hold not your peace at my tears, for I am a sojourner with you, a guest, like all my fathers. Look away from me that I may smile again before I depart and am no more.
So as the heading to this psalm says, Psalm of David, given to Jennifer, the choir director or the director of music. And let me ask you, in different versions, render some of these phrases a little differently. Some are a little bit more, in the, not so much, well, let me put it this way, stating metaphors the way they would have been stated. Others are sort of giving a sense to us of how we might think about the metaphor. But what is he saying here at the end? How does he end this psalm? In our own words, if your assignment tonight was you have to write down a summary of the last verse, what would that be?
Don't leave me in my short time here.
Well, I guess Grant, is he saying, don't leave me?
Hear my prayer. Don't ignore my tears.
But leave me alone, at least the way NLT, if this was similar, it will render it a little differently, but leave me alone so that I can smile again before I'm gone and exist no more. What's he feeling here? What leads up to this last statement? Yeah, feels like, well, yes, I'm a sinner, I acknowledge that, but now, maybe because of that, God has let my enemies just overwhelm me, and it would be better if God would look away from me. I'd be better off. That's an interesting thing to put in a psalm. God, look away from me. In this psalm, and many put it as a very similar psalm to Psalm 88, although this psalm does have a tinge of hope in it. He actually says, my hope is in you. Just real quickly, the last question I want to ask about Psalm 39. What are some different episodes? We don't know exactly when this would have been written, although given it was for the director of music, at least when it was handed to him, this would have been after David was king, but he may have written this down a lot before that. What episodes in David's life might have led him to this sort of feeling?
The songs after him?
Yeah, how long did that go on? Well, years. Not weeks, not months, years. And what does that tend to do to you? Wears it down. Even the most faithful, even those who have great patience, eventually that diminishes. What other episodes? Well, or even within that period that Saul was chasing, what, if we narrowed it even further, what particular episodes might have caused this degree of despair? What does he end up having to do over that period, among other things? He hides out in kind of barren wilderness of Judea, caves. That's not much of an existence. It was one thing for a weekend. It's another thing for weeks and months and years. But he also, remember, he ends up having to pretend to be crazy and going to the Philistines and acting like an ally of theirs. That could not have been pleasant. And then we have psalms committed later that at least the heading of the psalm points particular times later as David is king. What particular periods would have made him feel maybe really that God's hand was on him and his enemies are overwhelming him? Maybe because, go ahead.
After his sin with Bathsheba, everything just seemed to just fall apart with his family. There, Amnon and Tamar.
Yeah.
Oh, Absalom, that whole passage is heart-wrenching.
I mean, can you imagine how it felt when that whole episode of Amnon and Tamar? And then this Absalom affair, and people that had been his servants, soldiers, are now trying to hunt him down with his son. I mean, that had to feel terrible as that was going on. All right, so keep this in mind as we look at Psalm 88. Now, this is referred to in the heading as a psalm of the sons of Korah for the director of music. There's a Hebrew phrase used that many think means that it's to the tune of the suffering of affliction. And it's a particular type of psalm referred to as a maskil of Heman the Ezrahite. All right, so I don't have a cash with me, but if you do Venmo, I could give $20. Right? Where is Heman mentioned? I'm just joking about it. First Chronicles 6. He's among the descendants of Korah and then of his descendants, Kohath, these Kohathites, these Levites who served in various ways, but he particularly was singled out as the director of music and serving under David. And so he and other Ezrahites are mentioned as writing a variety of psalms. And so this isn't David, although this would have been a song, no doubt, David may have heard and previewed before it was delivered to the people of Israel. And David, one would think, would identify with this. It's, again, very similar to Psalm 39. So we're going to read through it, and then we're going to talk about the song. O Lord God of my salvation, I cry out to you by day. I come to you at night. Now hear my prayer. Listen to my cry, for my life is full of troubles, and death draws near. I am as good as dead, like a strong man with no strength left. They have left me among the dead, and I lie like a corpse in a grave. I'm forgotten, cut off from your care. You have thrown me into the lowest pit, into the darkest depths. Your anger weighs me down. With wave after wave, you have engulfed me. You have driven my friends away by making me repulsive to them. I am in a trap with no way to escape. My eyes are blinded by my tears. Each day I beg for your help, Lord. I lift my hands to you for mercy. Are your wonderful deeds of any use to the dead? Do the dead rise up and praise you? Can those in the grave declare your unfailing love? Can they proclaim your faithfulness in the place of destruction? Can the darkness speak of your wonderful deeds? Can anyone in the land of forgetfulness talk about your righteousness? O Lord, I cry out to you. I will keep on pleading day by day. O Lord, why do you reject me? Why do you turn your face from me? I've been sick and close to death since my youth. I stand helpless and desperate before your terrors. Your fierce anger has overwhelmed me. Your terrors have paralyzed me. They swirl around me like floodwaters all day long. They have engulfed me completely. You have taken away my companions and loved ones. Darkness is my closest friend. Think about how this psalm ends in Psalm 39. They're not too different. In fact, literally in the Hebrew, I don't know Hebrew, but others say that that last word in the psalm is darkness. My closest friend is darkness. And some of you probably have translations where darkness appears in other places of the psalm. One might even say it's the theme of this psalm. So, how would you describe the state of this writer, both outwardly as he perceives the world and inwardly?
I think there's an interesting contrast between this one and Psalm 39, because he's talking about, like, I've been sickly from my youth, death has been close to me, and in Psalm 39, he's saying, remind me that I'm finite, remind me that I'm here for a short time. I just think that's an interesting contrast.
And so here, one, as you state, he has this sense that, now this is probably hyperbole of saying I've been in this situation since my youth, but this is never ended. This is the way we might say it. It just won't end. What else does he say that of both how he feels inwardly and the things he sees outwardly? I'll go back to what are phrases that stand out in graphically describing what this man is thinking and feeling?
10 and 11, the way he's questioning, he's flipping everything on its head.
And by that, what do you say?
Questioning God, is his love declared in death and in the grave? Not what we normally think in destruction. He's wondering, this is the way it looks to me.
Right. In fact, how would, if I said to Chuck, if you're gonna make me wait any longer, I'm gonna be dead. I can't do you any good if I'm dead. How do we take that sort of statement?
Well, it's like he's trying to reason with God.
Right.
If you kill me, I won't be able to praise you, I won't.
Yeah, and in fact, probably that's a rhetorical statement in the sense that if I say this, Chuck, if you don't get with it, I'm gonna, do you want me to die? Do I really mean that you want me to die? I'm using sarcasm as those, like Randy's saying, those kind of four statements back to back there where he seems to be speaking to God in, less than respectful, but as some would suggest, near blasphemous. God, are you, he's not saying it like this. Do you really don't care? It's a way of saying, God, you don't seem to care. Putting question for him. That's pretty.
It's almost like he's saying, have you thought about what you're doing?
Yeah. He talks about, like his friends have been taken away, have deserted him. He feels like death is right at the door. It's where, this should be an easy question. Where in the Bible do we see echoes of these statements? Well, this class is covering Job. Thank you. Yeah, Job. Job says things in his complaint to God very similar to this. It's just very Job-esque. And not just, I'm hurting, I feel distant, but real indictments of God. Why aren't you helping me? If only you were a man so I could really sit down and talk to you directly. I mean, it's that level of caustic despair. And so it's a very interesting, if you think about it, almost like an interrogation of God, an indictment of God. And so that raises the question then, why is this in the Bible? Because as we saw in Job has these indictments of God and seems to cross the line because what does God do?
Rebukes him a little bit.
Right. Yeah, there's, 3 or 4 chapters where we say, okay, now you listen to me. Did you make the world? But here, there's no, there you can see, okay, that plays, hearing what Job has to say as an ultimate sort of comeback with God, but this is standalone. This is a self-contained psalm. So, this is an rhetorical question. Why, those of us here believe that psalms are divinely inspired and divinely collected, even though they express sentiments and feelings and thoughts of human beings like David and Heman. So why would God inspire and preserve this?
He still starts the psalm off as, Lord, the God of my salvation. And that's the kindest part of this. And then he goes into that whole thing. So he is looking to him in the midst of this darkness that he's feeling at this time as the God of his salvation. That there's still faith to be had in this darkness.
Yeah. Think about that. Remember when somebody was saying, Grant, I think you wanted to say something.
I'm just struck more this time going through Psalms about how, I always tend to think of these guys, if you know God so well, you're David, after God's own heart, how can you say these things? But I always kind of fall and prey to that way of thinking. But as you have, I guess just now as a father, especially with the kids getting a little older, one of the things you've always kind of wanted to know is really, for real, where are they at? Where are they? And we don't put words to that